We'll go ahead and start the meeting. You're all welcome here today to the Environment and Regeneration Committee on the 11th of June. I'll hand you over to Karen for the notice of summons of the meeting.
Thank you, Chair, and welcome to the committee. You're here to all members of Environment and Regeneration Committee. You're hereby summoned to attend the monthly meeting of Environment and Regeneration Committee, which will be a hybrid meeting conducted remotely via WebEx and physically in the Council Chamber, Guildhall, on Wednesday the 11th of June at 4 p.m. And I'll take the attendance. Alderman Derek Hussey. Alderman Keith Kerrigan.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Alderman Julie Middleton.
Online, Karen.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Boggs.
John online might be a wee bit late though.
Okay, no problem. Councillor John Boyle.
Here online, Karen.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Caitlin Deaney.
And Shaw.
Councillor Gary Donnelly.
Shaw.
Thank you. Councillor Alex Duffy.
On Shaw online.
Councillor Rory Farrell.
Here.
Councillor Sean Fleming.
And Shaw.
Councillor Emma McGinley.
And Shaw, Karen.
Councillor Pat Murphy. Councillor Declan Norris. And Councillor Martin Riley. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we'll read out the broadcasting statement. I'd like to remind everyone physically present at this meeting or in attendance remotely that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. This broadcast may be terminated or suspended in accordance with our protocol. Due to your attendance at this meeting, you're consenting to being filmed and to the use and storage of images for broadcasting or training purposes and for the purpose of keeping historical records and making those records available to the public. Members and approved speakers are reminded to only have their mics and cameras on while speaking at the meeting and to use the chat facility to highlight a request to speak. A copy of the Council privacy notice may be found on the Council website, www.derrystrabane.com. So, the declarations of members' interest. So, if anybody wants to give them now, or as we go on for the meeting, if you want to just give them, that would be grand. I'm going to hand you over to Karen now.
Thank you, Chair. And through you, Chair, members, as you can see from your pack today at item 18 on the agenda, we have a report in relation to the wider master plan for the Boomhall lands. And members, you are aware that Boomhall Trust in the chamber today, they're going to actually present to you on their plans for the site. And having spoken to the mayor, we've agreed that it would be useful for members if we pulled this report to run through the master plan first, and then following on from that, we can lead on to the Boomhall Trust. So members, I'll just very quickly take you through the report and hopefully it's for endorsement. And then Colin will give a very short presentation just on the master plan. So members, the purpose of the report is to present the emerging co-designed master plan for the lands at Boomhall. Members, you are aware that our council's green infrastructure team has considerable experience in the regeneration of historic landscapes and have taken forward the regeneration of both Brook Park and St Colum's Park. And members, officers have been committed to working with stakeholders over the last number of years to explore options as to how the site can be regenerated as a civic heritage and recreational asset for the benefit of the community and visitors. And members, you will recall that in recent years there have been a number of presentations to committee by third parties who have had an interest in the future regeneration of the site. And members, we as officers and indeed yourselves have worked closely with Boomhall Trust on their particular vision for the site. And as I said, they will be here to present the details of that following on from this report. So members, you received a presentation on the design thinking approach back in April 24, and since then there has been very significant engagement with all parties who have an interest in the site. Members, officers had written to a number of key stakeholders and met with them in terms of how they see the future of the site and an emerging master plan for the site. So members, I'll pass over to Colin now to take you through that process in terms of, I suppose, what they actually agreed as a result of the work that's been done on the master plan to date. And then I'm hoping that members will consider endorsing that master plan so that we can undertake more public consultation on it and then bring you back further reports in due course. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you, members. I look forward to giving this presentation. There's been an awful lot of work that has been put into this presentation in terms of with our in-house team, but also in collaboration with other partners. And there's a lot of slides here, so I am going to go through them, and there's a lot of content. But it's, in many ways, it's a presentation. It's almost like a presentation report per se. So next slide. Okay, so by way of introduction, this is just a little bit of background to the site. Okay, why it's historically important as a cultural landscape. In addition to this, this also acknowledges the work that the Boom Hall Trust are doing in terms of putting in an outline planning application for the house and some of the domain. But in addition to this, it also recognises a lot of work that was done by Sarah Rutherford, who was commissioned by Council's Regeneration team to do a conservation management plan of the site. And very much that's the backbone of the work that we've underdone in taking that and articulating that into designs and illustrations. Next slide. So Karen had mentioned a design thinking approach. This is an approach that we use to engage with stakeholders initially, not the wider stakeholders. And it's a step-by-step process, a 5-stage process to understand the site, see what's important about it, and then to test those ideas with stakeholders, okay, and then ultimately take them back to the wider community. So where we are at the moment, we have done stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're now on to stage 5. And stage 5 is about going out consulting with the wider public. Next slide. Next slide. So in terms of understanding the context of the site, Boom Hall is hatched red to the corner of the site, and then that's its relationship to adjoining green space and also importantly the expanding greenway network. Next slide. The next slide, what this illustrates is a number of the historic domains that were there in the past. And a lot of these historic domains have been lost, and obviously we have the remnant of Boom Hall House and what remains of its domain. But back in the day, I suppose it was a really desirable place to live along both sides of the foyle by predominantly merchants. Next slide. So this slide really looks at land ownership. The red dot in the middle is Boom Hall House itself, okay, and then the hatched area is what council owns. Unfortunately, over the years, the actual original estate has been reduced, okay, and the reason it's been reduced in size has got to do with loss of space. For example, the housing to the south of the site. In addition to this, there was lands that were acquired by Foyle Hospice, and then a significant part of the site was severed when the Foyle Bridge was built, and then also more land was lost when the Culmore roundabout was extended. Next slide. Okay, so what we've done is we've looked at various different ordnance surveys just to kind of understand the characteristics of the area. So the original of these dates back to 1830, and I'm just going to flick through these. So next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, next slide. Okay. So all the previous slides, in terms of background research, what we wanted to do is we wanted to understand how the landscape has changed. And it's about understanding the landscape, how it was developed, what had changed over the years, etc. And truth be told, there wasn't much change in terms of the landscape character, with the exception of the avenue that was put in, which we still have today. The major changes over the site, I suppose, was the loss of the domain and the demise of elements within the domain, such as the house and stables. This site, obviously, from a planning point of view, there's quite a lot of designations in terms of the site is important. It's a historic environment designation. It adjoins the local Bay Road Nature Reserve, and then there's tree protection orders along the Boom Hall Lane. The little red dots on this slide and the next slide, what they illustrate is quite a number of archaeological considerations. Some of them are important, some of them aren't. But I think what it demonstrates is the amount of stuff that's on site. And bear in mind that it's a very particularly important site in the city in the context of the boom and the siege. Next slide. Obviously, what we did then is what we want to look at is the planning context of the site. And we have a number of planning applications that were in the system and a number of them that are that are no longer in the system. Planning application to the north, that was an application that was put in by the Northlands for a new development there, but that has subsequently elapsed. That was put in 2011. A number of applications that we've succeeded in getting is the magenta line, and that's the need to light the scheme throughout it from Bay Road Park. And then the bigger red line, that's an outline application that the Boom Hall Trust have in for the regeneration of the house itself. Next slide. Very quickly in terms of just, sorry, next slide. Okay. Very quickly, just in terms of the landscape analysis, obviously we've looked at the landscape and we've got a very good appreciation in terms of how the landscape works, in terms of what's important, in terms of the balance between agricultural lands, trees, built form, and connectivity through the site. Next slide. Obviously, what we're all very interested in is the ecology of the site, and based on a number of studies that were done on the site, what we've demonstrated in terms of what the habitats are there, and what is important. What is particularly important down there is bats. Because of just given the nature of the old ruinous conditions, the veteran trees and the river foil. Next slide. Key historic features taken from the Rutherford report. What we've managed to do is we've managed to basically parcel up the land into key areas. And these range from the hall and the pleasure grounds, the east slopes, the wall kitchen gardens and stables, and the parkland, and then the front avenue. These are important things in looking at the character of the landscape in terms of how they were used and how they might be developed in the future. Next slide. Obviously then what we've done is we've mapped all the historic significant landscape features on the site, and these range from the house to the walled garden to the ha-ha to King James as well, etc. So there's quite a lot on site and as listed there. And what we've done is we've ranked those in terms of their heritage significance from A, B, C, D down to E. Next slide. Obviously, what's very important is, given just the presence of the site, is the views. The views when you're in the site looking out onto the adjoining landscape, and in particular looking across the foil in terms of trying to preserve those views. Many of those views have been lost. The original views have been lost due to development, but in addition to this, obviously there's been quite a lot of, I suppose, natural tree growth on site, which has impacted those original vistas that would have been there. Next slide. Okay, next slide. So obviously, I'm not going to go into this in great detail. So what we've done is we've looked at all the various different parts of the land, and what we've done is we have basically looked at the various different issues. Next slide. And then in terms of gathering all the spaceline information, what we did was we talked to various different stakeholders. There are people who have interest in this in the group. We particularly talked to adjoining landowners like the Gillans, and then we talked to the Boom Hall Trust and their consortium of 18 different partner organisations, and other people, including the Northlands, who may have an interest in the site, just to see where things are, etc. And all of that, then we've taken back feedback, and what we've hopefully done is incorporate that feedback into these plans. But also, most importantly, what we did was we went back to Sarah Rutherford, who did the original conservation management plan. We asked her to critique the work that we've done. We took on board her comments and then made amendments. Next slide. Okay, next slide. In terms of developing the concept, one of the key things is vehicular and circulation of the site. The site has only one connecting path that runs right through it, and therefore, if the site was to be developed in the future, this would not be enough. So what we would like to envisage is we'd like to put in a new greenway that hugs the bottom of the slopes, to take people off that main avenue, some of the traffic. Key to the things that are important on the site is the need to have a proper visitors car park in an area where it is where it would be compatible with the site. And etc. To this, what we would like to do is then we'd have a number of drop-off points and controlled access along the main avenue for use of the house, restricted use of the house, or DDA compliance. Next slide. So obviously what we've done is then we've looked at basically the various different land use patterns that can be put over the site, and these have been categorised based on the previous report that we looked at in trying to look at the balance between agricultural land and parking, and also in terms of parkland estate as well. Because obviously in terms of whatever we develop in these, we need to be thinking about the management of these spaces, what that might look like. Next slide. One of the key things that we were keen to do is look at the historic layout of the path network and where they connected and what the reason was and what should be retained and what should be new. So very much in keeping with the master plan, what we aim to do is reinstate a lot of the old network if they make common sense. Obviously then, next slide, I talked about trees and vegetation, and what we would like to do then is obviously look at the prospects of opening up better views from the house onto the foil. Next slide. And then next slide. Okay, and really what this takes us on then is the landscape master plan overview. And what we've done is we've looked at all the various different components and we've come up with a plan co-designed with the users. And what we've done is we plotted the various different features that could be developed on the site. Next slide. And I suppose just to zoom in on this, if we look at the landscape master plan for the house and gardens, what this would envisage is restricted traffic movements down the main avenue, some car parking restricted to the house in terms of DDA compliance and also in terms of the house's use. The regeneration of the stables into a new form, and then to really reinstate the wall garden that was there. The design of this wall garden is taken from the 1830s plan, and there was a floral garden at the front, and then the garden to the back, make that into a slip area. There is an interest in terms of doing equine. There's currently equine activities on site, but there's an interest in terms of doing more equine activities on site, and that's why that space would have been originally used. Next slide. Obviously, moving up through the site, what we would like to do is we would like to look at some of the path arrangements. To the south of the site, you can see the way the greenway would hug around the slopes, okay, to take people off the main avenue if so desired, and then a visitor car park. A visitor car park, to do it as sensitively as possible in keeping. We acknowledge that if you make any development, it is going to increase traffic movements, but we're very keen to promote active and sustainable travel throughout the site. Next slide. And then obviously, I'll just fly through these. We've looked at each of the character areas and we've come up with a spreadsheet looking at an appraisal of these and recommendations and then a response. So next slide. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, and then really, I suppose, next slide. Okay, so really that brings us to where we are in terms of stage 5. You can see that we've done all the analysis, we've talked to quite a lot of people, we've taken on board a lot of information from the maps and from talking to people, but also in terms of informed by the ecology of the site, the access, the views, and particularly the Sarah Rutherford photo. So we are at stage test 5. What we would like to do is we'd like to bring back a subsequent report to members, just to kind of outline how we would then go wider and how we would engage with the wider community to take on their views and bring that back to a subsequent committee. So just to conclude, there is the final master plan, well, the draft final master plan for members' information. So I think that is me, Chair.
I think now we'll leave the questions for now and we'll allow the Boom Hall Trust to come and give their presentation and then we'll ask questions afterwards.
Okay. Stop up there each time, okay?
No.
There we go.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bart O'Donnell. I'm a trustee of Boom Hall Trust, and this is Jim Salmon, the chairman of Boom Hall Trust. And I'd just like to say it's great to be back because 50 years ago, that's a 5 and a 0, I came into the council chamber down below to fight for tree preservation orders for the avenue in Boom Hall. The trees are still there, and I'm still here. So we're here today to now take this on to a new level. I've been fighting for this for all that period of time with an awful lot of people assisting. And our vision is to put Boom Hall back to what it was. This place has lain unused and inaccessible through nobody's fault. It's a difficult thing to undertake for, well, nearly over 50 years, since 1969. And that has meant that this place has not been used in the way it could have been. It's a social asset that is lying redundant because the effort and money required to put it back is quite considerable. And we believe that's a lost opportunity for well-being and for all the community programs that we are planning, which we'll touch on today to talk to you about. And so we established Boom Hall Trust over 5 years ago to make this a reality, to assist the council, who latterly came into the ownership of it, to make some. And we're collaborating with all the community groups that you're all involved with and around the town. We're not coming to this to prescribe exactly what has to be done. We have very much talked to the council and looked at the objectives that the council has formed over the years. We've talked to the community groups, and that's where we have arrived at the outline proposal that we are talking about today. So that's just to give you a background as to where we are. Now, we're a conservation group, but we have two principles. And the principles are that if you've got a community asset like this, it has to do two things. You have to conserve it. You have to keep what is good in it. But it also has to be useful to people. The best thing you can do for an old building or an old place is to make it useful for the people who live today. And we've been very conscious that we have those two criteria when we look at anything to do with Boom Hall, is that it must look after what's already there, keep the best of what's there, but also be useful to the people who live around it and have to use it. And if it hasn't got both of those things, it's the wrong plan. So that's our sort of opening guiding principle. And we have two whys really at Boom Hall. So the first one is conserving the building and the landscapes, and the second one we've more or less categorized as the wellness of the people, the wellness of the environment, and the wellness of the communities who live around there. That's what we mean by wellness. And we got those from the council, because it was the council who told us that their policies are geared towards well-being and towards environmental issues and towards bringing harmony and peace and community and engagement in these communities. And that's what the council told us where they wanted us to start when we were thinking about it. So then you go back to, well, why conserve the place at all? Why restore Boom Hall? And it's really very simple. We did a community survey. In fact, when I say we, I mean it was Greater Shantallow Area Partnership, the Solace Centre. We got the community groups together and they composed their own survey. They carried it out. We didn't tell them what to put in it. And we had only one question, was, do you want to see Boom Hall restored or not? And 98% of those people surveyed by the community organisations said that they wanted Boom Hall to be restored. So that's what the community wants. It is a good place to start. And the other thing is that this land was open access for communities over 1,000 years ago. It was Columkill's land. So what we're trying to do is to make the riverside accessible to the people of this town so that they can go and enjoy it and get all the health benefits that they would get. And the great thing is that if this is managed by a community, if we are looking after the programs that are going there, this can go on for generation after generation. We can bring this into a useful community asset, and it can be passed down in perpetuity. And if those of you that are interested in landscape and whatever, you'll know that the Foyle Bridge is very spectacular when you're going across it. There's over 16 million journeys a year across the Foyle Bridge. It's a spectacular entrance to the city. In fact, one of the most spectacular entrances to any city in Ireland, I would suggest. And we're going to keep that site natural and beautiful, as Colin has alluded to. The views there are extremely important and uplifting. And what we're trying to do is to make it, keep that place beautiful. And for those of you who are into environment, old buildings are a great carbon bank. All the carbon that you would expend building new buildings, you don't have to do it. If you've got an old building and put it right, you're doing something good for the environment. And it's also aligned with all the government policies. The three regional development pillars, regional economic growth investment, regional physical and environmental regeneration, and regional social community cohesion and well-being. And all of those council policies are aligned around that. And when we've been doing this, our approach has been that we have a new purpose of making environments, communities, and people well. Oops, right, okay. Sorry, I haven't been saying next slide, please, have I? I beg your pardon for that. I have to get used to this routine. So if you went up to the collaborators file, if you can find that, maybe that would help you all. I think you have it all printed out in front of you anyway. But anyway, to do all of this, we're not, as I said, trying to prescribe exactly what should go on down in Boom Hall. At all times, we see this as a continuous process, so it will go on for years, where communities can come and say we want to do various things. And that's why we have done a lot of work in the last 5 years, building relationships and developing plans with collaborators who are in the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, across the water. It's north, south, east and west, but they're community groups like the Foyle Hospice, like One Equine, like the Greater Shantallow Area Partnership, who led a previous grant application for us. We've been working with the community groups so that they can develop the programs for us. And the discipline of that is we don't end up doing anything they don't want done. So the idea is that we are curators of the site, trying to preserve it for everybody, make it accessible for everybody and useful to everybody. And it's for the community organizations to fill the chalice, if we like. So that's there's over 18 collaborators. And maybe if I could, next slide, please, is the Boom Hall Trust Board, which I'll let Jim talk, and I'll talk about one slide after that, and then Jim will take you through the rest of it.
Thanks, Bart. So members, we're just on the board on the slide now that shows Boom Hall Trust Board. So 12 members on the board, all very distinguished with the exception of the current speaker. You see there on the top left, Dr. James Simpson. He wrote the British Standard for Conservation. Very distinguished man in his own right. Pauline Ross, sitting in the visitors gallery there, needs no introduction. But in terms of conservation, she brought the Playhouse into Derry. She restored that building from nothing, and look what it is today. And we have that expertise on our board now. Then Des Reid there with the red tie, chartered accountant. He looks after, make sure we keep our books. We are a registered charity. We have 4 years of audited accounts now. We're very keen that we set ourselves up in best practice so that we are good partners for funders and for the council and for our collaborators. And then we have Bart O'Donnell, of course, who needs no introduction, barrister in his spare time, but that spare time is very minimal because he spends most of his time on Boom Hall. And then we have Primrose Wilson, who helped set up the Ulster Architectural Heritage Society in Northern Ireland, and myself. I was a quantity surveyor, project manager, so I'm involved in construction projects all my life. I know what it is to get them going, how hard it is to get them going. And then on the bottom row then with Patrick Craig, who was the former chairman of the Woodland Trust. Again, we selected these people because we needed their expertise. So Boom Hall has got some of the oldest trees in all of Northern Ireland and certainly around here at Boom Hall. So we have the former chairman of the Woodland Trust to advise us and make sure that we do everything properly and we enhance it. And then Jim Foster, who is a planner, and was the former boss of the Northwest Regional Development Office, but he's a chartered town planner as well. So he keeps us right. Karen Latimer then is a librarian in Queens, but she was involved in Hearth Housing Association, a very clever woman, a very formidable woman, and they're doing Riddle Hall in Belfast at the moment, restoring that. And then we have Professor Alistair Rowan there at the speaker, a man who wrote the book The Buildings of Northwest Ulster. That's a seminal book on all of the old buildings in this area. So if you want to know about Boom Hall, you look it up and you get the date, who designed it, why it's there, who paid for it, all of that, with a little history on it. And he does the same with buildings all over. Boom Hall is an important part of that book. And then we have Marie Donaghy, who is a young architect, and has been very helpful to us. She's working here in the council, and she brings great energy to what we do. And then on the legal side then, we're looked after by Cormac McKeown, who is a solicitor here in the town. So we're very keen. That board is assembled, all hand-picked people, all bringing unique skills, a lifetime of experience, bringing projects like this, back to life. And not only bringing them back to life, but then making sure that they run and they wash their face, that they remain relevant to the communities, because whatever we come up with for Boom Hall now, in 5 years' time, not all of that's going to be relevant, because communities change, needs change, and our job in Boom Hall Trust is to make sure that we get a collection of uses that are compatible and relevant. So that's ultimately what we'll be doing when it's all restored. So Bart, I'll hand back to you now.
Right, well, very quickly, we don't have time to go into all the programs that we're talking about, but just to give you an example or a flavour of the kind of programs that we're developing with our different partners, the kind of areas that they touch on a health basis. I was talking about well-being. And remember, the other two headings were the environment and bringing communities together, but this is only to do with well-being. We've got programs on addiction, on trauma, on autism, depression, loneliness, mental health and domestic violence. And some of our partners like the Institute of Child Education and Psychology in Maynooth would be specialists on issues of autism, and which we have programs for that being developed for Boom Hall. We're working with the hospice, and we're working with White Oaks across the border on addiction programs, various items that would be involved in that. But I don't want to dwell on that, because these are programs which are being developed, and to some extent we're in the ante room or the waiting room for us to get this our relationship with the council established properly, so that some of these things can be moved forward. But that's the kind of projects that are under development. But maybe if that's just to give you a sample, Jim can now finish on the rest of it if he switches.
Thanks, Bart. Okay, so we're on the next slide, which is labelled Update, Jim. So since we were here last, we have been working pretty hard to progress ourselves. We now have the support, the written support from the Department for the Communities, and Pauline Campbell, the director there, has been extremely helpful, and she's very keen to see this all brought about. We have submitted an outline planning application. That is a mammoth task, an absolutely mammoth task. We have spent over 30,000 at the moment putting that together. And we need, and we haven't got, but we will find funds for another 30,000 for various reports that are being asked for. The application was submitted and validated last July, the 30th of July last year. And we've been since then, getting various surveys done, BAT surveys and all of the other sort of environmental surveys that are needed done. There were no objections when we went to public consultation, no objections, nothing but encouragement. And we were in 14 different locations to present, the plans and all of that, but everything was very encouraging. We've also been helping Colin as you do that master plan. That took up a lot of time last year, particularly from Bart and Colin's team, and we were delighted to work with Colin's team on that. Also, he referred to the Sarah Rutherford report. It was we that encouraged the council actually to employ somebody like Sarah Rutherford, because John Kelpie in his wisdom commissioned in 2020 a conservation plan for Boom Hall. And then as an adjunct to that, we said, well, look, the conservation plan looks after the house. Why not get something now that encompasses the 60 acres? So the council did employ Sarah Rutherford. Now, there are lots of policies and recommendations in that conservation plan, which was endorsed by the council, but very few, if any, of those recommendations or policies have been put into place, mainly because the council have had other priorities in the meantime. But what we're saying is we can help put those policies and those recommendations into practice. That's exactly what we're about. So also then we have, as you know, FRG were interested in Boom Hall. We talked with FRG, we realised that we had common goals, and we are collaborating with FRG, Foyle River Gardens that is, and to the extent that they now have agreed to transfer, they own a very small piece of land, about a third of an acre, they've agreed to transfer that to this project. They're going to transfer it to GSAP, and at no cost other than just the legal cost that they would incur. So FRG are collaborating with us, are behind us. And then we've had Queen's University students working at Boom Hall to produce a sustainability plan, which shows the value in reusing the old buildings distinct from a new building to provide facilities. And then working on renewable energy, how the energy would be provided. So we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there, but nevertheless, we are planning ahead how to use all of this in the very best way. That we can do it in such a way that the city, that everybody in Derry and its surrounds would be proud of what is being done at Boom Hall. And all of this has been done in collaboration with the 18 community groups. Now, that takes up an awful lot of time, and Bart O'Donnell and Pauline have been leading that. They have, over the last 5 years, built working relationships. When we made our grant application to SEUPB, we had a business plan for each one of those organisations and what they would do. So, like, once this is restored, our job is just to make sure that, you know, their uses are relevant and compatible. But at the moment, what we're trying to do is get it restored. But of course, there's no point in restoring it if it's not going to be used. So that's why we're concentrating on working with community groups to make sure that it's used, and not just used for some fancy idea, but used to solve problems in the communities. For example, Outer North Side gave us a report there recently to say that economic inactivity in the Outer North region is 53%, whereas across the rest of Northern Ireland it's 39%. You know, you look at the health stats, only 11.9% of residents say they're in very bad health. But when you ask them then, have they long-term health problems? Over 39% say that. People talk about employment in Derry. There are more jobs than there are people looking for jobs now. And the reason some people aren't looking for jobs is they haven't got the right headspace. They're traumatized from all that happened here. And so Boom Hall being open to everybody and free, being a park on the riverside and having the house restored will mean when people walk in there, they will feel, just as the hospice is there and why the hospice is there, they will feel refreshed, revitalized. And that will, we are hoping, will bring people to a point where they are more healthy, where families are in a better place, and they can start applying for the jobs that are there. So there's a whole underlying health issue there, well-being issue that we're tackling. So on the finance then, all of this is going to cost money. So to update you on the finance, next slide, yeah, that's it. Any money we raise is not coming, we're not competing with local people. We're looking for fresh money from outside so that we're not competing with any other organisation in the city, because we want to add to what's going on here, not compete. That would, you know, that just doesn't make sense. So even for our planning application, we got money from the Pilgrim Trust, we got money from the Architectural Heritage Fund. 2 of our trustees put their hands deep in their pockets and came up 15 grand, apart from all the work that they do. And DFC have funded two archaeological assessments. Altogether, we've raised about £100,000, hard graft over the last 5 years, persuading people what we're trying to do, starting from zero. And so that's what we've done. Not to mention the sweat equity. If we add up what we've put in, it's easily £500,000 in terms of time. It's easily, that might be hard to believe, but we can substantiate that and give you the evidence of that. Now, we've been working hard with funders over the last number of years to build relationships, because you just don't knock on the door and say, give me 500,000, please. That doesn't happen. They need to know you. They need to have faith in you. And we've been slowly building those relationships. So the National Heritage Fund, we have been working with them for the last 3 years, and they are now encouraging us to put in an expression of interest. They're actually guiding us on how to do it. And then on the 12th of, if that's successful, and we hope it will be, they're saying then we put in the full application. Then on the 12th of November would be the next date that we'll be aiming for, to put in a full application to the National Heritage Lottery. And we're very hopeful, given the signs and the conversations we've had, we're very hopeful that that will provide funding for us, and that will allow us to employ a design team to bring it to full planning stage. It'll allow us to take away the vegetation that's pulling the building down, take away dangerous stones so that we can get access in there. It will allow us to do all of the rest of the site investigations, because when we go for full permission, we have a lot of environmental impact stuff to do. So it will pay for that, and it will pay for a business plan and a website, because we've been flying under the radar trying, well, we've very little resource, but except ourselves. So this will allow us then, this first 500,000 or 575 is what we're actually, that will allow us to apply for bigger funding, better funding from other groups, such as Shared Island and the Heritage Lottery again. We'll be well equipped then at that point to make those applications. We've also been building a relationship with Shared Island. We've had 3 meetings with them. We have another one planned for the end of September. And again, we're being encouraged there. But, you know, we realise we have a lot of work to do to get them into where we want them to get them. But they're listening and they're interested. And one of the key pieces of government policy that's important to us in the new decade, new approach, Boom Hall is mentioned, not by name, but the site is mentioned. And as John Kelpie says, this is a placeholder in government policy. So, you know, it's already been established that government want to do this, but clearly, you know, the next steps are important. So the next steps for us on the next slide would be that all of the funders have been telling us, including the Heritage Lottery, including Architectural Heritage Fund and Shared Island, we need to know that the statutory bodies are behind you, and we need to know that you will eventually own the site. Because if we're going to give you all this money, we need to know that you own it. So what we're asking today is that you allow the officers in the council to progress a D1 process to dispose of the site, to give us a lease. And that in itself, by giving us a lease, that actually is the biggest thing you can do to show support for Boom Hall Trust. And just as importantly, it means that you've got skin in the game. And since you represent communities, it's not as if you're giving it to somebody that's not community. We are made up of 18 communities. It's going to rest in the community. One of the things that we'll be doing, and we've discussed this with the National Heritage Lottery, is succession. What happens when we fall off our perches? Who's going to take it over? So that whole succession thing, and also, you know, all of you, you're all younger, but eventually we have to think about succession and how this travels through generations, because it is an intergenerational project. It's a very big project. It's 20 million. So this is a serious project, and that's why we really need to have ownership of the site to persuade funders that we are in the right position to take funding. And so earlier on in the year, we wrote to the council asking for a lease, formally asking for that lease. And we're hoping today that you would give permission to the council officers to progress a D1 process. Finally, the last slide you'll be glad to hear is to say that you're all invited individually as a group to bring your families, to do whatever you'd like, what way you'd like to do it, to a tour of Boom Hall. And Bart would be very pleased to receive you and give you a tour. And it's really interesting, I mean, to know it's right on our doorstep, and it's so rich in history, from St. Columba through to the Siege of Derry and beyond, right over, and immigration, the whole story, it all comes together. It's a really, really important, interesting site. Bart would say it's more important than the Battle of the Boyne, and maybe it is, but certainly it's on our doorstep. It's a sleeping giant, ready there to be done, and we think we're the ones that can take it forward for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jim, Bert, that was fantastic. I'll bring in Karen here.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And members, just, I know we'll take members' comments and questions now, and then hopefully we can go back to the report that we have brought forward in terms of consideration of members' endorsement. But just I suppose on Jim's last point there, in terms of any request to transfer or lease land from council, obviously we would have to fully assess that from a legal, financial and technical perspective and bring you back a report in terms of laying out all the possible options, etc. So just to note today, obviously, should members wish us to do that, we're more than happy to do that as quickly as we possibly can, but just to note that today. Thanks.
Alderman Muddleton, is this in your asked to come on? So.
Thank you so much, Chair, for letting me in. And on behalf of the DEP, thank you so much, Bart and Jim, for being here today, for the wonderful and detailed presentation. Your passion is just infectious, so it's just wonderful to hear and see what you're working on. We so much commend you and your team on your collaborative working approach. This is such an important heritage-based project. We're so excited to see this come into fruition, not just for ourselves, but for everyone and our children and our children's children. I am aware that you've met with Gary Middleton MLA on a number of occasions and other MLAs. Please be assured, as a party, we are engaged, we are enthused, and we're very supportive, and we'll be happy to endorse proposals later on today as well. Thank you so much.
Roy,
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Bart, Jim and Pauline, for your presentation regarding Boom Hall. And it's not the first time I've heard it. You know, we've heard it as a party. I remember you presented to the Northwest Regional Development Group at some stage last year, which is a cross-border group comprising our council and Donegal County Council as well. And an outworking of that was that we agreed letters of support for potential funders, i.e. Shared Island Unit, Heritage Lottery Fund, etc. And we followed that up with specific letters from this council. So we're all aware of the potential of a redeveloped Boom Hall. It's a sizable site along the river, and it offers so much potential that hasn't been realised and hasn't been realised for a number of years, specifically around a redeveloped, a reimagined Boom Hall and the stables. It would be great to see it brought back into use, and the programmes that you've planned with the partners, if implemented, would massively change quality of life, health inequalities across this city and district, because you want to focus on domestic violence, anxiety, depression, social isolation, addiction. These are real concerns across this city and district. And if we had this tranquil place along the river that could be the home for people to use those services, it would be just a fantastic setting for it. And as Karen has mentioned, we understand that there needs to be some certainty around the Boom Hall Trust and the lands, and we get that. So we understand that you want to look at community asset transfer or a long lease, and we're open to those discussions. But as Karen has said after the presentation, it's not something we can agree today. There are various considerations, legal, financial, technical, and we as a committee couldn't just say embark on that D1 process today. But what we can say, and what I'm going to propose, is that officers bring back a paper about all those considerations, because there's stuff that I probably haven't even thought about, but the officers are the experts. So I would formally propose that there is a paper comes back to this committee to look at every aspect around that process or potential process. So I'm happy to do that. And in terms of the paper itself, about the master plan, and I'd like to thank Karen and Colin and Tony, who made time to meet Ballyarna councillors last week to give us a sneak preview of this and to have a detailed discussion. It's an impressive master plan. It's well thought out, it's well presented, and it's an exciting vision for that site. So I want to propose that we request a future paper regarding various considerations about a future transfer of those lands at Boom Hall, but also want to endorse the recommendation regarding the master plan. But we want to see this site developed. We want to be in a position where we can help Boom Hall draw down that funding, because money is needed. A considerable amount of money is needed to realise those ambitions. But I can see, it's a fantastic setting, and the intended future use of Boom Hall. Apart from the conservation aspect, about the difference it's going to make to the lives of local people, it's to be commended. And if we can support in any way, that's what we're here for. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Colin, Bart and Pauline, for the presentations. Very good. And to Colin for bringing this to stage 5. I know the area well, Boom Hall. It's in the DEA, and it's the potential is huge. But to concur with Councillor Farrell, I think we need that report from Council. I would like to second Councillor Farrell's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. And I'd just like to say thank you so much. So it was a fantastic presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I will be taking these up in your offer to go around. Oh, sorry, Derek. Sorry, forgot about you, Alderman Hussey. Sorry.
Thank you. And it's really just to come in, like Rory, I've come across the presentation a few times now. I think it's actually been twice in front of the Northwest Regional Group, if I can remember correctly. It's a tremendous amount of work that's been undertaken, and sincere congratulations and best wishes going forward on that. You say that every journey begins with the first step. This journey has begun some time ago, so it's just making sure that the next step is there and followed by the next, and to assure you of ongoing support for the project, given the historic and potential of the particular site. And you've heard all that I've said about Boom Hall before anyway, so I'm not going to repeat it, but just to assure you of the support of the Ulster Unionist Grouping on Council going forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. Councillor Dolly.
Oh my God, Chair, you seem to be in a hurry trying to get us all out there. Like. Look, thank you for the presentation, and look, I'm not going to repeat what's already been said, but it's an area that's used by a lot of people. They walk and relax and walk dogs. I would be there regular, and it is an area that's could be improved, to put it mildly, and underutilized. But I think that there's a historical aspect, and which is very, very important, and it's diverse history too, which is good. And it's good to see the range of support that you've been promised on that. But I also like the whilst history is important, the present day problems, complex issues that a lot of people in this city and district face, probably because of our history or because of the conflict, and that is a contributor factor to a lot of them problems. So it's good to see that in your plans that they will be tackled, a lot of the issues that may arise from poor health from that. But again, procedurally wise, you've done a lot of work along a long road. So look, hopefully that it will come to fruition and will be put to its best potential. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you, Councillor Donnelly. And I'd just like to thank you for coming, Jim Burton, Pauline as well. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much.
Chair, before we leave Boom Hall altogether, it's been brought to my attention that the current state of the Boom Light, which my understanding is would lie within the responsibility of Londonderry Port and Harbour Commissioners, it's not in a very good state at the moment. Could they be contacted and asked, would you clean the darn thing up, please? It's a navigation light on the foil. Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, we have already done that. We've been in contact with them over the last week. So we're arranging with them to access the site so that they can access that piece of infrastructure.
Appreciate that. Thanks, William.
Thank you, Alderman Hussey. We'll move on to chairperson's business. I have only two members, but I want to come on myself first before. Just like to thank everybody for coming chair. It's a great honour. And as you know, since I joined this committee nearly 3 years ago, there's a lot of issues that are close to my heart. I talk about flooding all the time, and one of them is my boy dump. And as members will all be aware, 2 men have received custodial sentences for their role in the illegal dumping of my boy. Whilst we welcome this, it's the first time anyone has been sentenced for environmental crime, given the scale of damage done and the money their crimes generated and the eye-watering costs that what will fall to the public purse to put it right. Some people will understandably question the leniency of the sentences. The threat posed by my boy to our environment and our constituents' health and its impact on the completion of the A6 and the economic development of our council area remain. We will welcome the public consultation will now start on remediation options and also welcome the Minister's desire for public inquiry. As a council, we previously backed calls for an inquiry, and I just hope now that this is a path forward for the conclusion to the biggest illegal dumping site in Europe. I've Councillor Donnelly to come on first.
Good Chair. Chair, some of those that were found guilty have been sent to jail for what has been described as an environmental crime on an industrial scale that was motivated by greed. Chair, these people, they weren't on their own. There was others, many others, individuals and in organisations equally culpable who will never be held to account for their actions. And many people, unfortunately, will view these imprisonments as a box ticking or scapegoating in comparison to a much bigger and more deep-rooted problem. Irrespective of what anyone thinks of the sentencing, the fallout from the environmental damage will have serious impacts on this council and citizens for generations to come. For example, ongoing groundwater contamination and surface water pollution, threat to the district's water supply, massive clean-up costs, prevented the A6 road being built between Drumahoe and Maydown. With the criminal proceedings over, I welcome that Andrew Moore has confirmed that his department will now publish the proposed remediation strategy for consultation. But there's little we can do on that until we see what is proposed, other than to say that this committee and council must take a lead role in scrutinising the remediation strategy. If that needs independent expert advice, then that's something that we might need to consider early on, but that's for another day. Regarding the public inquiry, Chair, the issue I want to reinforce today is this council's continued support for a public inquiry. Every party in this council has expressed, and individuals have expressed support for this in the recent past. On Monday, the former Environment Minister and current MLA Mark Durkan reiterated his call for a public inquiry. The current Minister, Andrew Moore, stated in Stormont on Monday and again on Radio Foyle on Tuesday that he also sees merit in holding a public inquiry. And this echoes calls from groups like the Gallery, which was formed in 2017, primarily to campaign for such an inquiry. Other groups are Environmental Justice Network Ireland, Faham Anglers and Enoch Youth Forum. When the Maboy scandal was exposed by a BBC Spotlight programme in February 2014, a motion for a public inquiry the following month got unanimous all-party backing. This council needs to take the lead in pushing for this inquiry, and I propose that we write to the executive calling on it to reconsider its position. And I've sent the text to committee, and just effectively says that given the recent comments by Judge Rafferty and Minister Moore on the unprecedented nature and scale of the environment, social and economic harm caused by the Maboy illegal dump that will impact this council area for generations to come, this council will write to the executive calling on them to initiate the public inquiry first voted for in the Assembly in 2014 to establish the extent of waste crime and provide the public with assurance that lessons have been learnt to prevent this happening again. Thank you, Chair.
I'll bring in Karen here
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, I suppose just on Councillor Donnelly's point in terms of the optimum remediation strategy, as members will recall, some time ago now that the committee actually recommended to Council that we employ independent experts in order to be able to properly scrutinise any such optimum remediation strategy that was brought out by the department. And members will recall that we have actually procured those experts and indeed retained them, since it has been some time since the Minister first intended to bring out the optimum remediation strategy. So just to advise members that they are now ready to go as soon as we get the optimum remediation strategy published. So just to clarify that for members today, and again, obviously, you've got the proposal before you as well.
We need a seconder for the proposal.
Can I come in, Chair? Thanks for bringing me in. Thanks to Councillor Donnelly for the proposal on the screen, and to the officers for the additional information that's been provided since the proposal was put up there. I'm happy to second it, and let's see what comes back from the executive. Like Councillor Donnelly, I heard the Minister on Radio Foyle earlier in the week. I also heard him when he was given a statement in the chamber on the Monday, and during the Minister's statement he indicated that he was going to have meetings with the 5 MLAs for Foyle, and also the Minister indicated he'd be meeting the Mayor and the Chief Executive of this council as well. I think that is welcome, that the Minister front-loaded into his statement the fact that he would be engaging with council officers and the elected representatives in through the Mayor. I think it would be useful if officers are able to share with members of this committee any details about those meetings as to when they're due to take place. And I think it would be useful that you as chair be involved in those meetings if appropriate, because I do think that the Minister has been open around the need to have consultations with all the various different people that are interested in finding a resolution to this hugely costly problem. And I'll finish on that point about the hugely costly problem. The proposal on the screen, as I said, I'm happy to second it, but it doesn't have any reference to the amount of money that the Minister has publicly stated he anticipates will be needed to clean up the illegal dump that is there. And I think that's going to be the nub of the conversations going forward as to where the executive is going to find the funds to deal with the waste that is being legally dumped in our council area, and has already been indicated is causing a huge problem for infrastructural projects like the delivery of the A6, which in turn is having huge problems across the waterside in terms of the traffic, the build up in Drumahoe, the build up of heavy articulated lorries going through other places that aren't designed for those types of vehicles, because they're not able to finish their journey properly from the Drumahoe new roundabout out to Colin Maydown. So glad to see the progress that's been made this week on this issue. Happy to second the proposal, and happy to continue working to find solutions. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Riley. Karen.
Just members, through you, we did hear the Minister say that he intended to meet elected representatives and officers. We haven't yet had that request, but we can update members as and when we receive that.
Councillor McGinley.
Sorry, Chair, it was Councillor Duffy. I was going to just wish you well in your year ahead, but Councillor Duffy will deal with this issue.
Councillor Duffy.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to congratulate you in your new position as the chair. It's good to see a good old Strathfoyle man in that position of chair, and I know you're going to do well, given your environmental interests and the work you've done so far. So just to congratulate you on that. Just on the Maboy stuff, so we want to welcome the sentencing of the 2 men involved in the legal dumping at Maboy. The damage caused by this illegal activity has been severe, as we all know, with serious consequences for both our environmental and the health of the local community. In particular, the potential waste leaking into the River Faughan has been deeply concerning for a while, as well as the level of toxins what have been found on the surface water. No one should be allowed to dump waste illegally without facing consequences. And the sentencing sends a clear message that this kind of behaviour will not be tolerated. This case should serve as a strong warning to anyone involved in illegal dumping, and I want to reaffirm the need for continued action to protect our environment to ensure accountability. Also, we welcome the announcement by the Deira Minister of the planned 16-week public consultation on a draft remediation strategy for Moboy. And I encourage members of the public to take part and make their voices heard, as I know they will be. The groups like INEO Forum and the Gallery and such should all take this opportunity and tie into this public consultation. We also welcome the Minister's engagement with the Foyle MLAs and representatives from our own council regarding the site. And our own MLAs have urged him to also involve local community groups and the residents in the area in these discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Alderman Middleton.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in. And I just want to echo congratulations to yourself on your upcoming year as Chair. And we're really looking forward to working with you on the Environment Regeneration Committee as Chair. So congratulations to you. Just on Moboy, I very much welcome the pending remediation strategy, and I think there'll certainly be a piece of work for us all to do to really wrap our heads around all of that and provide constructive feedback. It's very, very important that we have a clear and thorough understanding of the proposed strategy. I also welcome the judicial convictions. You've all heard me speak now since elected every single meeting on Moboy and my outrage, so definitely glad to see that that's been put in place. I do believe that Council should proactively lead on setting up meetings in regards to Moboy, but I just think above all, as I've said many, many times, residents here should be with the residents and those that are surrounding the site, that they're highly involved, not just those in and around the area, but our council area, that they're highly involved in having a say on this and being involved in the conversation as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Middleton. Councillor Sean Harkin.
Thank you, Chair, for letting me in, and good luck with your year as Chair. I'm sure you'll be excellent. First, I just want to support Councillor Donnelly's proposal. One of the things that is clearest about this is that when this was first exposed, there was an attempt to bury it, and that is why the BBC documentary was called Buried. There was an attempt by the political and business establishment to bury this issue, because, as we know, Moboy dump is not the only illegal dump across the north of Ireland. There are many, and when it comes to the environment, it is not the only issue where there is criminal behaviour. In fact, there is constant criminal behaviour when it comes to the environment that has never, up until now, been met with justice. And the only reason it's been met with justice is because of the relentless efforts of campaigners, as others have said, people in the gathering, the Foyle Faughan Anglers group, and many others who backed the campaign to say what's happened here can't be allowed to go without being challenged, and we have to make sure that it's actually cleaned up. So when you look at some of the other criminal activity, I mean, the Loch Ness has been poisoned. That didn't happen by accident. That happened through pollution. We look at the raw sewage being dumped into our rivers, our coastal waters and our streams. That is criminal behaviour. And it is not the sort of thing that's a one-off. It is constant. It's built into the way business is done in the north. And that means that it's being facilitated by Stormont. And the hold up on a public inquiry is about the unwillingness of Stormont and others to undo these practices. Some people have made a lot of money It is a complete impossibility that the two people who were sentenced acted alone. This was an open secret in Derry, that there was a big illegal dump and that people were making a fortune out of it. And if we want to stop further pollution, we actually have to have a public inquiry to understand how this was facilitated. And then that has to be extended to all the other damage that's being done to our environment. And you look at, big organizations like Moy Park make huge profits, but there is tremendous environmental damage that comes as a result of that. So I think that this is, the campaigners were absolutely right, and they've done society an absolute favour by being relentless on demand and action. And I think now we as a council have to make sure that the public inquiry is held. And we also have to make sure now that there's a thorough cleanup of Maboy that fully involves residents about how to ensure that it is safe in the future, and also that this never happens again. But I want to thank Councillor Donnelly for bringing this motion today. I think it's a very important one that the council has to have at the top of its list. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Harkin. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and like others, all the best in your year going forward, Chair. I'm really just seeking clarification with regard to the extent of the public inquiry that's been asked for. I mean, all that's referred to in the motion is just waste crime, correct, or crime waste, whatever it is. Is it specific to Maboy, or is it general to all incidents throughout Northern Ireland? I mean, it came out of the 2014 decision or recommendation from Stormont. So it's really the extent that we're looking at. And I hope, we know that Maboy is probably the zenith of what has happened, but there are so many other incidents, even down to those that this council has to deal with. Somebody dumping on the side of the road is a waste crime. So it's the extent really of what we're looking at here with regard to a public inquiry, and I have to agree with, I'm doing this, I think this is the second day, Sean. I have to agree with Councillor Harkin. The issue of the punishment fitting the crime has to be taken into consideration, because the whole cost of the process of that court case is far from covered by the sentence that has been passed on the suspect. But that's a matter for the courts going forward. But there has got to be a cost recovery element within a lot of legislation going forward as well. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, it's my understanding that in 2014 it was specific to it could be wrong, but it was specific to Maboy, and then I think it might have been extended then. I think it might have been Sinn Féin to the northwest, and I think it was extended then to 6 counties. But I think it has to deal with the Maboy issue, and I would hope as broad as possible down to the issues that Alderman Hussey has said. But I'm sure that's for the minister and the people around him, or the procedures there, they decide that remit. I would have it as broad, but I'm sure there's going to be costs and procedures, but it'll be up for him to decide.
So just to be clear, this proposal is for Maboy?
It was the 2014, which was then extended from Maboy to the northwest and to the 6 counties. So, but my primary concern, I think the major concern is Maboy.
Is everybody happy with this proposal, or do I need to go to a vote, or everybody's?
We're content enough, Chair, if you were looking for clarity, and it would be within the remit of the minister to establish the terms of reference for any inquiry. So we're content enough with the proposal.
Thank you. So we can move on then to one for decision. Oh, no, sorry, we'll move on now to the minutes from the last meeting. Sorry, Councillor.
Sorry, Chair, I contacted you about an item in Chair's business.
You did. Councillor Farrell forgot.
Thank you. So first of all, I wish you well for the year ahead. I know you're going to do a fantastic job as you're so committed to the work of this committee, and that's clear in all your community work. So there's two firsts today. This is my first day on the committee, and this is the first time I will ever praise a DUP minister for doing something practical for Derry. And I'm referring to yesterday's announcement about the establishment of the Northwest Regeneration Fund, which is going to provide the Inner City Trust with borrowing power up to the tune of £10 million over the next 5 years. I think it's great news for Derry, specifically our historic city centre, where the funding is going to be used to tackle dereliction and bring unused buildings, disused buildings back into use, to breathe new life into those buildings. And I'd like to say for the record that the Inner City Trust has a proven track record on this. They've got experience, they've got expertise, and I really look forward to seeing their development proposals. So fantastic news. I don't know if Gordon Lyons is listening, but it's good news for Derry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Donnelly wanted to come on under Chair's business as well.
That's okay. It's all right.
We'll move on to the minutes from the Environment Regeneration Committee held on Wednesday the 14th, 2025, pages 17 to 28. Anybody have any issues or proposer? No need one. Sorry. Okay. We'll move on now to the third active project, the public toilets.
Yeah, through you, Chair. Members, this report is to provide members with an update on the status and progress in relation to proposed public toilets provision at the Castle Park in Castlederg. Members, you will be aware that officers have progressed initial design work for the provision of public toilets within the Castle Park, aligning with wider community feedback. And whilst the commitment has been made to design and prepare the project to a stage of readiness, members should note that no funds have been allocated within the current Castle Park Phase 2 budget of the Levelling Up funds or COVID recovery to deliver the toilet block or support the necessary infrastructure. Members, in section 3 of your report, concept design work is currently underway in terms of initial layouts, materials, etc., as laid out in Appendix A of your report. The infrastructure requirements, member officers are engaging with relevant utilities to scope technical requirements, and way leaves, access arrangements and associated permissions and licenses will require formal sign-off from members as laid out in Appendix B. So members, in terms of funding, a total of 30,000 has been highlighted as an ask through the Capital and Corporate Projects Planning Group. And in terms of next steps, broader works associated with Phase 2 of the Castle Park Regeneration Project are progressing, and a tender for the works is scheduled to issue in early summer. And with works anticipated to begin late summer, early autumn. And whilst no capital has been allocated within this phase to deliver the toilets, officers have committed to ensure the project is fully designed and ready for delivery, subject to further future funding. So members, in terms of the recommendations in front of you, to note the progress to date in the design development of public toilet provision at the Castle Park, Castlederg, acknowledge the current funding position and the £30,000 for infrastructure to take that part of the project forward, to approve officers to proceed with the necessary permissions, requests, way leaves licensing access arrangements for utility connections, including engagement with utilities and relevant parties and landowners, and to grant the appropriate access licenses with a nominal licence fee to facilitate public realm improvement work on private lands in line with the draft in Appendix B, and to endorse the continued preparation of the toilet project to a state of readiness to ensure future delivery in line with the wider regeneration of the park. So members, happy to take any comments or questions.
Thank you, Karen. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair. And on behalf of the electors of my area who have been concerned about this particular scenario for some time, on behalf of myself and my fellow councillors who have regularly asked that this be on schedule or there within the schedule, I say a very sincere thank you to all of those who have worked on this and brought it to this state of readiness. And we all know that it's vitally important when you're trying to develop a project that you have it in a state of shovel readiness, in the trusting that eventually resources will become available to allow it to go to fruition. I'm more than happy to propose the recommendations on 5.1 and trust, as I've already said, that the resources will become available to allow this much needed facility to be developed. And it's not alone the facility itself, it's what it then opens up with regard to other facilities in the surrounding area that will be a benefit to the electors within our area. So sincere thanks and proposed. Thank you, Chair.
Alderman Hussey. Alderman Kerrigan.
Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me in. And just like others, Chair, I'll take this opportunity to congratulate you on your appointment as Chair of this committee and wish you well in your year of office. I'm sure you'll do a good job. And again, to your deputy also, congratulations. Again, just one wee point of clarification, but I think we're all right. I'm assuming that myself and such as Alderman Hussey as well as members of the DERG Active Working Group there are content enough. As it may well, whether that's a declaration of interest or not, but even with that, I'm assuming you're content enough that we can still propose and second this item. So I'd say as long as Karen and the officers are content enough, I would be content enough to second the proposal which has been made by Alderman Hussey. It has been it's a key issue, and the officers are well aware of the ongoing issue and niggle that we as elected representatives get around Castle and the Derg area, but particularly around Castle Derg in regard to toilet provision and the community toilet based scheme, and even with this link up now with the upgrade of the play park at the castle site, it is good, as Alderman Hussey has touched on, is getting the project shovel ready, and potentially with this next VAT reclaim there that was mentioned there by Alfie there one day, maybe we can get a lot of pound out of that when it comes back to the capital or the corporate working group there, that we may have a few pounds in even via the council fund to put towards this project, because I do feel that it will be a good benefit. It'll be a great addition to the castle site, and again, it's a provision in the town which individuals are continually and as I say, I would imagine it is at least on a weekly basis where we are getting a touch, I suppose the best way of putting it, by several different individuals in regards to the lack of that provision in the town. So as I say, more than content, Chair, to second the proposal and thank the officers for the level of work that's been put into date, and we look forward to getting this pushed forward and getting into planning and having that position where we're able to say this project's shovel ready, so no, content with that. Thank you very much, Chair, for allowing me on.
Thank you, Alderman Kerrigan. Councillor Paul Boggs.
Chair, and can I as well congratulate you on your new role and look forward to working with you as part of the committee. I won't rehash everything that Alderman Hussey and Alderman Kerrigan have said, but just to put on record on behalf of Sinn Féin, our thanks as well to officers for the report that's in front of us. I know that the Mayor, Rory McHugh, was working hard on this as well alongside other DARE councillors, and it will be a great asset to the local area. So I just want to put on record our thanks to officers for their hard work and for the report that's in front of us on behalf of ourselves.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs, and congratulations on yourself too for the Deputy Chair position. Councillor Riley.
Thanks, Chair, for bringing me in, and congratulations to you and to Councillor Boggs as well. Best wishes for the year ahead to both of you. Just for the SDLP on this item, just to echo what has been said in relation to the thanks to the officers and the work that's been done to get it to this stage. I sat on the public toilets working group many years ago, and in the first meeting, I think I remember Alderman Hussey and Alderman Kerrigan saying about the need for this, and indeed been contacted by party colleagues in the Derg area asking for this to be included. So it's good to see it getting to this stage, and hopefully the funding can be found. Thanks.
Councillor Riley, I take it everybody's happy with the comments, so we can move on. The next 10 reports is open for information. The first one is the building control applications, and I'll bring in Connor.
Chair, thanks, Philip. Just to advise members of an update to the report, we now include periodically details on dangerous structures for members' information. The members inquire about these periodically, so we'll provide that update. And if there's any specific concerns, then members can approach me directly. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Connor.
Opposed, Chair.
Thank you. Don't need it, do we? No. Okay, Councillor Murphy, thank you. We'll move on to the energy contracts. So the next ones are all open. So energy contracts, everybody happy? Annual blessing of the Graves City Cemetery. Councillor McGinley.
If I can just come in to thank officers for going out that wee bit earlier. I think it was a wee bit earlier this year with the information around booking for people that need the disabled access for the blessing of the graves. It has been appreciated. I've had contact with a couple of people who had difficulty in previous years, and they were grateful for that wee bit of extra time. So just thanks to the team for giving that wee bit of time.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley. New cemetery update.
Chair, apologies, Councillor Boggs, I just indicated online the last item.
Sorry, Councillor Boggs, if you want to come on.
Perfect, and Councillor McGinley has covered the city cemetery arrangements, but it would be remiss just if I can use this opportunity to thank the organisations on the ground just Sunday past at the council cemetery in Strabane, who did a sterling job at ensuring that traffic flowed freely, and that people, particularly elderly and those with mobility, were able to use a shuttle bus to get up and down the hill at Strabane Cemetery for the blessing of the graves as well. So I namely want to thank Aidan Harkin and his team from Fountain Street Community Centre, and also all those who volunteered to help, just to recognise the part that they played to ensure that the day went off successfully and that everybody was kept safe through it, because it is a bottleneck of an area in Strabane, and their efforts didn't go unnoticed by the local people, and I just want to put it on record here, our thanks to them as well for the part that they played on Sunday.
Thank you, Councillor Boggs. Councillor Riley. It's on now the next item, so we'll move on to news cemetery update.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Happy with the paper that's there. I just noted in 3.2, it talks around members considering a visit to the site. I think it might be useful, for the committee members to take if it's established. But I'm also conscious, and it might be worthwhile raising now in terms of if officers have plans for other people who will be using the cemetery regularly, like funeral directors, etc. Is there similar types of publications of opportunities for them to familiarise themselves with the new arrangements before they go live, to try and aid the smooth operational opening of the cemetery? Thanks, Chair.
Chair, thanks for that. I'm happy if members want to organise a visit, I can do that either individually or collectively. And in terms of the funeral directors, they were consulted on the design stage, but we'll also be inducting them in the use of the cemetery once we're near opening.
That's great. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor McGinley.
Mega Chair, and thanks for that, Connor. I don't know if that was a formal proposal from Councillor Riley in relation to arranging a visit, but I'm content to second. I think it would definitely be worthwhile, be it for members of this committee or all members. I'm sure members that aren't on this committee are receiving, questions and correspondence in relation to the new site at the cemetery, and I think it's just good to put on record how swift this has come through following the passing of the planning application. So well done to everybody that's been involved in getting it to the stage, and looking at being operational for the autumn is a quick turnaround. So well done to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGinley. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you, Chair, and it's clear a considerable amount of progress being made. Just one query on the structure. I'm presuming that it's just a footpath layout, and it's not a case of chambers which have then been refilled again. It's just the footpath layout.
Yeah, Chair, it's just the footpaths. The burial ground in the centre will be traditional, I suppose, clay burials.
Thank you, Connor. We'll move on to item 13, disabled parking bays. Item 14, flooding update. No. Item 15, the boy update. We've spoke on that there.
Through you, Chair, members, just to update you, as members have discussed earlier, I suppose Deirdre had asked us to, because obviously the sentencing had taken place after they had sent in their update, so they did advise us that obviously that the sentencing had taken place last Friday, and indeed that the Minister intends to announce the optimum remediation strategy hopefully this week as well. So they just wanted us to formally note that at the meeting here today. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Okay. Alderman Hussey.
Thank you for the permission, Chair. I'm just aware of the weather warning for tomorrow, which seems to be quite serious from what I've read. I'm not 100% sure, but just seeking assurance that given the potential of flash flooding incidents, that Council is ready and that the other agencies are similarly on an alert with regard to that going forward.
Yeah, through you, Chair, members, officers do receive updates through our resilience officer in terms of any weather warnings, and then we follow the normal procedures in line with the Northern Ireland civil contingencies and the local government contingencies arrangements. So certainly we assess them all, and then we will put the suitable arrangements in place, but that one did come through earlier, and indeed we'll act accordingly. Thank you.
Number 16, Sister Claire Crockett's the notion of notice of motion. Councillor Hutton.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not a member of the committee, so thanks for letting me in, Chair. And it's just to recommend the paper and to thank the council team that have been working very hard and diligently on this in relation to the sensitivities around it. So just to put it on record, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hutton. Number 17, the Peace Plus programmes update. And we've done 18 already there, so we'll be moving on to confidential. We need a proposal to move on, Councillor McGinley, Councillor Farrell.